Good morning and welcome to Klingspor's Woodworking Shop 20th Annual Woodworking Extravaganza
Virtual.
I'm MikeZ, and joined with me,
Still Chris.
And today we want to give a shout out to Scott Caskey again for making homemade muffins that you see in the front of the table.
Was it Scott or was it his wife?
He said it was him.
Hmm.
Either way, he had a lot of bananas left, so we have a lot of banana muffins. So thank you, Scott and Lucretia, for bringing us muffins.
Yeah, we like to eat.
Yeah, we do. So let's do a quick rundown. If you are not familiar, the Woodworking Extravaganza is our yearly sale that we put on. This year, unfortunately, we're not able to do it live and in person, so instead we are having to do it virtually. But at our 4 stores that we have in North Carolina, we do have a lot of demonstrations going on, and all throughout this week we'll be showing you some of the film demonstrations prior to and live demonstrations that we'll be hosting.
So we got them both. Some of them will be live, some of them will be pre-recorded, some of them will be pre-recorded and live. Figure that one out.
That is fun. So let's run down real quick of what's on sale. If you're interested in ARBORTECH products, they are 10% off. Crown Tools, made in Sheffield, England. So if you're into turning tools and you want some good quality high-speed steel. What about if you're into carbide turning tools? Well, Easy Wood Tools has got you covered.
Great for beginners. Get started on your own with your own little tool and be ready to rock and roll. FOREDOM, going to get into power carving. FOREDOM's got a full line of both rotary as well as some reciprocating chisel action going on. Full line of different burrs and bits and different things available for that as well. So check it out.
And if you want to get into power carving with an angle grinder, King Arthur Tools is one of the best tools out there for that, as well as they make the Merlin 2, which is a handheld angle grinder.
Easy for you to say. And of course, Kutzall. So in keeping in the rotary action, Kutzall's got a full line of burrs and different points, different shapes. So if you're trying to shape a part, we've got a lot of different options there in the Kutzall line. Those burrs work really fast, and the price point's good at 10% off. It was already good before, but now that they're on sale, Kutzall cuts it all.
Laguna is 10% off for the rest of the month till the 31st, as well as select Nova products. The lathes and chucks will be on sale.
Hard to go wrong with either one of those. Keeping with the machinery side of things, don't forget POWERMATIC, 10% off all POWERMATIC products. So if you're in the market for any kind of machine or power tool, POWERMATIC's got you covered.
That's right. And Proxxon, if you're into making models or small scale projects, Proxxon has the tool that's right for you. Save 10% all this week.
And Robert Sorby, more of the Sheffield steel turning tools. Check those out if you're looking to get in. They've got some standardized tools as well as your carbide. But Robert Sorby's well known worldwide for the quality that they make in their turning products.
And if you're into epoxy, System 3 is one of the originals out there on the market. They're going to be offering 10% off their quality mirror coat top coat for your bar topping.
And they've got a full line of other products as well, but the System 3 is 10% off.
Let's talk TORMEK. If you need a Swedish sharpening system all in one unit, the TORMEK is the way to go at 10% off for the rest of the month.
Even if you don't need a TORMEK, you need a TORMEK.
And Trend Routing Technology out of Britain is offering 10% off on their diamond stones for the rest of the month.
It's a top trending topic here at Klingspor's Woodworking Shop.
If you need anything from clamps to dust collection, Woodstock's got you covered at 10% off.
And everybody needs dust collection stuff. And don't forget Flexcut, doing a little hand carving. Maybe you're not doing the power, but you want the hand carving. Flexcut tools are extremely sharp, very high quality steel. And right now you're saving 15% off. Plus, there's a deal that if you spend $50 or more, you get a $5 cashback rebate. So do that. Download the rebate form. Man, you could be saving money all over the place.
That's right. On our promos page or on the Flexcut turning tools page, carving tools page, you will find the $5 mail-in rebate. What about 15% off Jet?
When you're a Jet all the way. And right now, 15% off all Jet machinery and equipment.
That is huge because the other competitors can't even touch that right now. What about you need to stock up on abrasives? And Klingspor Abrasives has got the right abrasive for you. 15% off all the rest of this month.
And don't forget the router bits. So not only the sandpaper, but the router bits. Those are 2 things every shop needs. Every shop. Everyone.
Did you know that every shop also needs saw blades? In order to get that wood cut precisely, Klingspor offers saw blades that are 10% off now.
German steel, German carbide, high precision plating. Man, those are some good blades.
And they say Klingspor, so you know the quality, and customer service is there for it every step of the way. Let's do 15% off Rikon lathes.
Got a lot of options in the Rikon lathe market. Everything from small benchtop mini lathes up to the big machines. And that new machine is sweet.
Yeah.
I think we'll have a little preview of that sometime this week, won't we, Mike?
Looks like Daryl from Dreadnought Workshop is going to be turning for Robert Sorby on the new sliding bed Rikon lathe.
Well, I'm sold.
So what is today's activity? Chris and I decided that, we're basically going to refinish a table that was in the dining room. It's a dining room table that was in our break room, and it was just stuff was piling up on it. So instead of having stuff pile up on it, because it wasn't a very nice top, we decided we wanted to refinish it. So in this video that we have for you, what we're going to do is actually show you how we approached refinishing, and also correct abrasives to choose, the correct grits to start with, because we find there's a lot of times that people are starting too coarse and actually making more work for themselves. So we cover that in this video as well.
Yeah, and it was a fun little project. You know, we tried different techniques and used different things. We even utilized a brand new finish that we are carrying now from Waterlocks, the H2O locks. So what better way to get familiar with that if we're going to be able to talk about it and sell it than to actually use it.
Yep.
And like we said yesterday, we're avid woodworkers and finishers and everything in between. So we like to get our hands on the new products and give it a full test so we can give it an honest review. We want you to know how we feel about it.
Yep. And we will cover what we experienced using the product at the end of the video, because we didn't touch that in the video. We figured we just talk about it live, both of our opinions on how that went.
Yep.
So without further ado, here is our DIY refinishing a dining room table video.
Take it away, Mike.
How we doing out there, everybody? I'm MikeZ. Chris, and thank you for joining us for the Woodworking Extravaganza virtual edition. This is Abrasive and Proud of it, and today we're going to refinish your commonly found dining room tabletop. This one here is kind of a slang term. They call it rubber wood. It's widely used, all finger joints, little tiny pieces everywhere, lots of pores. Usually it has lots of damage in it, and so therefore today we're going to show you the proper sanding technique. So if you wanted to refinish yours at home, you could do it a lot faster and quicker than some of those tutorials out there.
And there's a variety of finishes that you may have. You may have an old table that you just want to refinish. You may be sort of like this. You might find that gem at the flea market or at the local thrift shop. Well, no matter how it is, being able to take that finish down to the bare wood is ideal. And we're going to cover some of the common techniques, things to look for, and ways, and give you some good tips that might help you along your journey should you try to redo your table someday. All right, Mike, so it looks like we got a lot of stuff here to choose from. And the beauty of this is you're going to need some of this, but not all of this. But all of this could be used, right?
Absolutely. So the most common sander out there is a 5-inch 8-hole. You can do a 40% faster job with a 6-inch, but it's not always necessary. So in this case here, the more readily available is the 5-inch 8-hole. I would say I do 90% of my work with the 5-inch 8-hole. That's just one of those sanders that it just does a great job for the size that it is, and the price point is perfect for if you want to do this yourself.
And I really like this one, mostly because this is actually my sander, so I use this all the time.
Yeah, this is a personal sander. What we did want to talk about real quick is that if you hadn't purchased any sandpaper before you do that and just run to the box store and get something, we offer a sampler pack which has 50 discs from 60 grit to 600 grit. Now, mind you, some of the finer grits most people won't use, but at the same time, when you're getting in between coats of finish, that 400 and 600 can really make a difference in your finish versus someone else's. But so $20, and you get a 50 pack of selected grits all the way through. So just want to let you know that's available. It's a great cost saving measure, and you get all the grits you're going to need for a project.
Well, and the beauty of having that assortment is you're getting 5 of each. You may not ever need them, like you said, but having those 5 when you do is quite handy, because then you're able to do things that otherwise you'd have to go buy a 10 pack, or in some cases a 50. You already have 5 ready to go. Gives you a good chance to test it out. So.
Absolutely. And then we also have, we carry bargain boxes. And in one of the bargain boxes that we have here in the store, we have the gold. It's a Klingspor gold. This is an Egyptian cotton back, very flexible, easy to tear if you just want a small piece of it and you want to just hand sand. But fantastic stuff. So we're actually going to use this to show you on the edges how to clean up your end grain, because that's one of the things we're going to run into with doing tables, is that your grain's all running linear from left to right. white. So you have what's called ingrain, which is where the end of the wood has been rounded over. You can't sand that the same as you sand everything else.
And I'm a huge fan of our shop roll material. This is available in rolls, so if you wanted to buy rolls, but we also sell shop rolls, which is a similar backing, very flexible, but it's a brown aluminum oxide. We don't have any here, but that's what I use a lot in my shop instead of actual sheets. It's very flexible, bendable. You can fold it, shape it, tear it. But those are great to have around as well if you're looking for a good assortment of different things. Those shop rolls are good. So we're going to kind of move on down, because obviously if we're going to sand, we do have a dust extractor behind us, but safety products is also key. You want to make sure you're protecting your lungs. These are, this is 2020. It's not just for COVID anymore. It's actually used for woodworking.
Yeah, and so this is the RZ mask. It's a very simple one to use, single strap around the back. Now, I mean, our ears are getting tired as it is now, so this is a great alternative, not only for just wearing out in general use, but also in woodworking.
And it does have a replaceable filter. This is a mesh side, so it's very comfortable, not very hot.
Very cool.
Very breathable mask. So this is actually my kind of go-to mask for doing general woodworking. So once we get the thing sanded and get it prepped, we got to do a little cleaning, and a little filling. So we do have some filler here in case we've got any bad spots, and we know we've got one or two. So we will be using this Mohawk wood filler to kind of touch up any of the bad spots that need to be fixed up.
Yep. Then we also have mineral spirits, because what we're going to be using is an oil modified tung oil. So it can be used or washed and cleaned up rather with warm soap and water or mineral spirits. So this is kind of a new product for us that we're also testing out at the same time. Waterlocks has a universal tung oil sealer. If you hadn't used Waterlocks before, it's probably the simplest finish in the entire world to use. It's been around for 110 years. The only downside that most people don't like about it is it's a 24-hour in between coat process. So you can't get a project, minimum. So you can't get a project done like in 2 days. It might take 3 total. But once it's done, it's fantastic, because if you have the dining room table and everything's finished about it, and then let's say you get some scratches, let's say something happened at Thanksgiving one year, things get a little awry with the family, you can just simply take 1 coat of this and put it over the entire surface, and it usually gets rid of all the scratches, any blemishes or anything at all, and it recoats it at the same time without hardly any prep work. It's the simplest finish to use.
And I'm a huge fan of that product line, but these 2 items are brand new for Waterlock, so we thought where better to test them than at the Extravaganza virtual show, live or pre-recorded for you. So we're going to test out this new H2O locks and this new universal sealer, and we'll let you know what we think about them, because we both like the normal one. We'll see how we like the new one.
And whenever we test finishes, we really like to actually have the finish at work with us every day. So this table is a work table. This table is in our break room. So once we get done refinishing it, it's going to go through some abuse every single day. So that's kind of one of the things we like to do with durability. How good is it? Well, let's throw it in the break room and find out. So, all right, let's get to sanding, because I'm tired of looking at this old finish.
Yeah, Okay, so one common misconception when you're looking at refinishing something is people often will try to start with like 80 grit or 60 grit. And in most cases, that is definitely not needed, because one, you're digging deep with those 60 or 80 grit grains, and you're digging deep channels that you're going to have to remove. Two, you are digging out a lot of your finish. You're removing it fast, but it's doing more damage to the wood than necessary. So we always like to do a little test. Normally, we would flip a top upside down and do all of our testing on the bottom, but we kind of already have a feeling of what we know is going to work. So what I've got here is I've got a strip of 100 grit, a strip of 150, and a strip of 180. And I'm just going to show you real quick here. You see this 100 grit just doing a little light. Now I'm not putting any pressure, just so you can see the strip falls right out of my hand, just enough to hold pressure there. And you can see that 100 grit more than enough was to remove that finish. Now if I did 150, you can see here, even the 150 is sufficient for removing off that top layer of finish. Well, what about 180? 180, a little bit more of a struggle, but you can even see with that, that's doing a pretty good job. Now that leaves a nice smooth finish, a little rougher when you get to the 100. But the nice thing is, the point of this is you don't have to start super coarse. You can start right in the middle and do pretty well. In this particular case, with this wood and this finish, I believe the 150 is going to be the way I'm going to do it. I'll be able to come around here and literally when this is done, not only will the finish be gone, but it'll be ready for us to put our top coat on. So quick tip, choose the right grit to start with and it'll save you a ton of time on the back end. So sometimes the mechanical sanding works really well too. Some profiles don't really allow much for that, especially if you're a beginner. I'll show you on this profile because this is just a simple little bull nose that you can take your sander and do a little rocking motion. And this does have a nice crisp line. So I'm going to do my best to try to stop at that point before I roll back down and not to actually come on over. If this was a true bull nose, then you would be able to follow that straight over. Also, you want to be cautious with this, not to do this method, because then all you're doing is sanding little lines in here. So it does need to be sort of a rocking motion with a constant movement. So just like this. So you can see that worked pretty well. There's a few little areas where I didn't quite get, but sometimes hand sanding is the best way. It ensures you get a good feel. You have more control over what you're taking off. And if this was a detailed piece like an OG, I definitely wouldn't have to concern myself with removing the actual detail of the profile. So let's get back to sanding. Okay, so we've got all around the edges. Now, I use the orbital sander method for everywhere on the other edges except for this one. We wanted to take a minute to just show you one thing that we see a lot of people doing is when they get to the end grain, because they've come along the edge grain, if you're sanding by hand, when they get to the end, they do this. Well, many people don't realize scratches in the wrong direction, which means that's cross grain scratching you've just done. So that has to be done out. Even on the end grain, going across it leaves horrible marks that are difficult to get out. And when you put a finish on, they show up. And so the last thing you want to do is that. So what you've got to do is actually sand just like this. Now you can do with a block, you can do, with a hand pad, which is the reason why I use that orbital. You can do the old shoe shine method, whatever works for you. Find a method that works, but ultimately, if you sand everything off cross grain, you have got to come back with the grain to clean that up. And that's the only way to do it. Now that applies to end grain on tables, doors, drawer fronts, anything with an end grain. If you sanded across it, you better go back and sand with it.
So this is the Bosch GET 75-6. This is a 6-inch model. 6x15 hole is the pattern that it comes with. Now we do offer a multi-sampler pack for 6-inch sanders. And what that means is that basically you have all the 6-inch sanders out there. I'd say 95% of them all have a similar pattern to them. One, the 6-inch 6-hole in the middle here. If you have an older sander that's 6-inch, these middle holes will actually work with the dust collection. If you have a fest tool of any kind, the 9, the 17, the 48 hole, they all use the 9 holes on the outside with the center hole. And so this one in particular utilizes all those holes. And what I like to do is that you can put it on turbo mode. Now, I want to make sure that you understand turbo mode is a larger oscillation. It's a very large circle. If you start too coarse, you are going to scratch these long circles into your surface a lot more, which may not be what you want. So in this case here, I've got a 120 Green Tech on there. Green Tech is really good for removing finishes because it doesn't gum up as fast, or if it does gum up, you can literally blow it off or simply do that, and most of the loadings will come right off. So this is now my go-to for all refinishing projects. So let's go ahead and get started. So some of these scratches in the surface, I was doing 120 back and forth, just lightly, just to remove, kind of see what we're dealing with underneath the finish. And there's some pretty heavy scratches. So I'm going to drop down the grit now to 100 to help clear this out. Now, one of the things I always recommend is to start with a grit finer than what you think you should, because you'll either find out that's not cutting as fast as it is, or you'll actually start to see a lot of problems once you get past the finish, but you don't want to gouge the wood if at all possible. It's just making more work for yourself. So in this case here, I can definitely drop down to a 100. I think 100 is the most underrated grit out there. Everyone always does an 80, 120. 100 is really nice because it's almost aggressive as 80, but not as weak as far as its aggression as 120. It's kind of right in the middle. Obviously, it's 100. But if you switch over to 100 or give 100 a try, you'll find out that it kind of fits the need of both of those, and then you can go right to 150. So you can skip 2 grits right out of the sequence. So we're going to go ahead and give this a shot right now.
Okay, so yesterday you saw us. We got all top done per the manufacturer's recommendations. We let it dry overnight. Well, this is a pretty crappy little wood, this rubber wood. So what we're going to have to do, we've got the seal coat on. It drastically raised the grain. So we're going to have to do a flat sand, which means we're going to do, for the most part, take most of the sealer back down almost to bare wood in places, which is fine. That's what the sealer does. It sealed off all that grain. So we have options. We ended our sanding yesterday with 150. In the sampler pack, we go all the way up to 600, but for this application, it's just too fine. So we're going to throw those to the side. Instead, I put the 180 grit, the PS33 stearated aluminum oxide on there. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get this sort of sanded back flat again, and then we'll be able to go over top of that either with another coat of sealer. We'll have to wait and see what it looks like, or with a top coat. So let's see what happens.
Well, that was great, Chris. Thank you so much for doing that for us.
Yeah,
How we doing
finished.
out there, everybody?
There we go. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't want to restart that.
So first impressions of the water locks is that the universal sealer for sure will raise the grain. I think they call it oil modified. So it's almost like it's wrapped around, or it has oil that's wrapped with water. So it raised the grain, and that's why when we went to scuff it, we didn't use foam to scuff it initially on the surface. We actually used sandpaper, and we used the Green Tech. What grit did we use, 220, or do we use 320?
I think we tried both and found that the 220 was required on that particular one.
Okay, yeah, and that was just to take all of that and knock it down. Now, whenever you're doing a sealer coat, and a lot of times I see a lot of misconception with what grit to start with. Typically for myself with a sealer, I'll do a 180. If I get it back down to some bare wood, that's not a big deal, but you want to make sure that you level it. So what you're looking for in some of those shots that you saw in there was I was showing where there's the shiny and the dull spots, and what that is to show you where the lows are, which is the shiny, and the highs, which is the dull spots. So whenever you go to scuff, what you want to look for is everything to be dull or uniform. That means everything is level. And sandpaper on a sander will give you a much faster performance on that because it's flat. Where if you use like a hand block or a foam sanding pad, the foam is actually going to contour with the shape of the table, so it's not going to level it out as fast. So you want something that's going to be flatter and much easier to level.
And Green Tech's perfect for that because Green Tech being on a film leaves a really, really flat surface.
Yep. And the loading was, with it being a tung oil, loading is kind of an issue because it takes 24 hours in between coats. So the Green Tech was nice because when it did load up, we literally flicked the back of it and it came off. So that was cool.
Yeah, and we found that worked pretty well for the majority of that application. Use the Green Tech 220 on that, and then I'm trying to remember. I think we applied a second coat of sealer, if I remember correctly. And
Yeah, I think we did, because a lot of that really rough stuff we pretty much went down to bare wood again.
Yep.
So therefore we did another coat of sealer and then sanded that again, that time with 220. And then we went ahead and started applying the top coat. And so for the Michelle Parsons video that's coming up later today at 3 o'clock, she actually is going to be working off of that table completely finished. So you can see the shine, the final shine with that. And we're still applying one more coat. We wanted to add quite a few coats just to see, well, how much you could add. I mean, we're testing it. So we wanted to find out how many coats you could add without going over. And then at the same time, how durable that is.
Yeah, and it worked out pretty well having that already pre-finished. We were able to put Michelle's stuff on there, and it gave us a little bit of a test. Obviously, she wasn't burning the table, but she was putting all of her tools on there, some different wood parts on there. So it gave us an opportunity to just kind of see how well that held up under just light scratch load, which is typical for a kitchen table.
Well, and also gave us a time frame of just 3 days. We finished it in that time before she utilized it, and so therefore it kind of gave us an idea of what to look for with that quick window of time. So water locks, one of the things, it's very easy to use. I cannot reiterate that enough. But one of the nice parts about it is that it seems a little shiny at first, and give it about 3 to 7 months. I know that seems crazy, but in that 3 to 7 month time, it fully cures out. When it fully cures out, you'll get the true desired sheen that it says on the can. So in this case here, to me, it's a little bit more semi-gloss. It says satin on the can, but in about 3 months or so, it will be more of a satin finish. It's a great finish.
Well, and one of the things we noted on the actual H2O locks was that during the application process, we tried several things. We used different brushes as well as our applicator pad. And what we found was it would look a little streaky during the application process. But when we came back in the next morning, it had done a great job of leveling out and everything looked really good. So it was quite surprising how well that turned out, being that it left that sort of streaky appearance during the brush on set time.
Absolutely. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the video below and we'll be glad to answer them. But for today, that was going to be our video and our introduction to these products. And we're going to tell you more about it. Check our social medias, our Instagram, Facebook, and we will definitely keep you updated on how the table's doing in the break room. Every time we have something, people put stuff on it, we will see how it goes.
Yeah, and originally we talked about spray finishing that table, but we thought, well, you know what? Not everybody's got a sprayer, even though later on in the week we're going to be talking about Fuji and Erlex and the options you'll have there with their HVLP. We thought this is a perfect opportunity to showcase what others do, traditional sort of hand sanding as well as machine power tool sanding, and then using an actual brush on or wipe on urethane or top coat to showcase that application. Because like I said, most shops, you don't have spray equipment. So This is your option.
Absolutely. So once again, I am MikeZ.
I guess I'm still Chris.
And we thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you back at 1 o'clock today in an hour and a half or so. And we'll be talking with the Reclaimed Audio podcast.
And just so you know, so far, we don't have anybody bringing us any food for the 1 o'clock session. So if you wanted to show up before the 1 o'clock session, bring us food, we'll give you the shout out. Thanks again, Scott, for the great muffins.
Thank you so much for watching. Everyone have a great day.